This is Secret Stories, and my name is Mary Cachapalia. Many people cannot be on camera because their employer, their family, their friends, or their church or synagogue would roll their eyes, ridicule, misunderstand, or even fire them. Secret Stories allow you to tell your story with anonymity. Here I read experiencers' accounts emailed to us at Breaking the Silence. This is Grace Claire's story, which will be in 2 episodes. Hi, I just found your channel, or you have been shown to me by my spirit guides. I don't need to be secretive, but I do feel called to share a few of my experiences, and I have a lot, to be honest. We'll see how far I get in this mail. I'm living in the Netherlands. No idea why, because I have literally nothing in common with this country. And perhaps this might be the very reason to be here. I have tried to be there for others, to share, to come up with very unique forms of healing, art, and poems, but all I have known is rejection, alienation, people ignoring me, misunderstood, etc. But maybe in this way, I can come forward with my story, at least to start with. Let me start with this memory. It's absolutely not the first one, but it means a lot to me, and perhaps it could explain a lot. My parents, our dog, and I were on the way back from our holiday in Yugoslavia. It was very early in the morning. When we drove through Germany, my father was obviously tired after driving the whole night. Anyway, according to his account, suddenly there was a car in front of him that drove way too slowly for the highway, hit the brakes, lost control, rolled over a few times, and ended up upside down. I was, before it all happened, somewhere else. I could clearly remember what my guides told me. Be careful when you come back into your body and want to climb out of the car. There's glass everywhere. So I woke up and stayed very calm. I noticed the glass, and that was that. Only when I saw my mother with blood on her face climbing out of the car did I scream. My next memory is observing the whole scenario, with the lights from the police cars, ambulances everywhere. My father talking to the police, and my mother demanding attention from the doctors in white coats. This was the moment when I saw him. A long, tall, blond man stared at me intensely. I was only 10 years old, and it was beyond obvious to me that he is not human and absolutely didn't belong with the doctors, even though he wore a white coat as well to comfort me. I assumed immediately. Straight away, he came forward and telepathically spoke to me. And as if this is an everyday normal thing to do, I telepathically spoke back. He was very direct, friendly, loving, and considerate. He was worried about me very much. He said to me, "Not so long ago you refused our help, and at that time you truly needed us. Let me please help you this time." He basically begged me. I would have refused if he hadn't asked me in this way. Normally, and I really thought about it, I would have said no thank you. And at that same time, it was very amusing how he came to me like that. I mean, bro, it's obviously you're clearly not human, so why the effort? And I was smiling at that thought. He spoke further. "Please take my hand, will you?" I just could not say no, so I said yes. My God, his smile, he was so happy. I remember taking his hands and I can't remember the rest, only when I was in the ambulance to go to the hospital. What did I see? He was just as real as any of the others, but later I understood it was only I that could see him. He visited me together with another woman in the hospital afterwards, which he had promised, but this time not as I would call, in 3D, but in etheric. I never understood why I would refuse their help. I think I have an idea. Since birth, I have been visited by many beings, friendly as my soul star family, and not so friendly. So the next memory that I have that I will tell is from when I was only 4 or 5 years old. One night I woke up in my cot and felt scared. I looked into the corner from where I expected something to come forward, something scary. As little as I was, I tried to figure out how to get myself into safety. What if I turned myself with my face to the wall? But then I didn't see what was coming to me, I realized. So I turned around. What if I hid under the blanket? But I couldn't breathe properly, and even then they lift the blanket and still find me. What if I throw a little blanket on the side of the cot so I can hide behind it? But then I realized I would even be more in shock if they came and looked over the cot and I wasn't prepared for it. So I decided to face it. Whatever would come from that corner, and I took a good look at the distance, I had a few options. I could scream or run out of the room. Since that moment, I faced everything, how scary it may look. So what was I so afraid of? Well, I'll take you back even earlier. I must have been 2 or 3 years old. It was early afternoon when I was put to bed for a nap. I didn't want to. Immediately after the door was closed by my mother, I felt unsafe. I could see straight through my wall and straight through the closed curtains. There they were, in exactly the same corner I spoke of, a couple of beings standing on a balcony that wasn't there. The one in the front was a clown, a freaking clown, smiling and waving at me, creating ultimate feelings of horror, and I couldn't save myself to go anywhere. I didn't want to go with them. I didn't want to go to sleep, but I knew all the struggle against it was helpless. Ugly things happened, I know. Not always consciously, you just know, inner knowing. Fact. There is more. You can call me Grace Claire, and my life has been very difficult, but at the same time very rich too. Something my guide knew at the time of the accident when he came forward. He knew I would never forget this, and because of this memory, I had one soul I could trust at times when there was no one else to trust. Later, I remember going somewhere on certain nights. For as far as I can understand, this happens on ships. I truly loved being there, meeting with other kids who were a lot nicer and kinder than the children around me in the day-to-day life on Earth. The beings who taught us interesting lessons were warm, kind, and serious too. This was a place I felt safe to be a child, to get a little naughty without being punished for it. At night, we, the children, connected with each other, and then we waited in a certain room to be picked up and taken to the main classroom. And although I do consciously remember not everything, a few teachings. One of them was what I called magical mathematics. I suck at math, but the magical mathematics was way more fun to do. So, as a child, I was told that everything is one, is always connected to the one, and brought back to one. Every single thing. I could put a bunch of numbers together, and somehow, some way, I could bring it back to one number. Of course, we understand now that the message is that we are one and we are connected, but it's interesting the way they taught it to us as children. I think our group of children counted around 12. Children coming from around the world, only being connected with each other in this way. The teachers told us that we matter and that we are brothers and sisters, equally important to each other. Of course, this would apply to Earth as well, of course. The only problem was that I was in a highly dysfunctional family and being bullied by the children from my school. So for me, this felt like a distinct separation from one of the other, my life on Earth versus my life up there. My teachers were of all different kinds of beings, from humanoids to more reptilian-looking to long, tall beings like the Arcturians. I never had any problems with reptilian beings, By the way, there's a lot of black and white thinking and a lot of fear being put in our minds, but also whatever happened throughout history. As a child, I understood certain things cannot be spoken about. People won't believe you, but it can make things harder at times. One night, I woke up and clearly remembered that I was promised an ice cream by a lady, not from here, but from the ship. There's something I needed to do, and when I finished, I would get it. I didn't like ice cream so much, not even as a child, but a promise is a promise. You keep your word. Something I learned from the people on the ship. Anyway, I stood in the middle of my room in the middle of the night crying because of this. When my father came in asking what was going on, I just couldn't say. All I said was I had to make up something quickly that I had a bad dream. His reaction was more like, "Oh, go back to bed," and that was that. I have always loved planes and flying, highly attracted to them, although it didn't make sense to me when I was a child. Yet I knew I could fly, and I was very good at it. I knew I was even in higher rank status, having the responsibility for my crew. I don't think I have fought in World War II, although I love those planes and the sound of them. So I suppose I think I know who I was, or at least who I have known, because I was a woman, and there weren't many women flying at that time. But that's not the only thing I flew. I have had my own what you call UFOs, small ones and big ones. I was 17 years old when I woke up from a dream that wasn't a dream. I was flying with my crew, and a lot was going on at the time on, in, and around Earth, and we're heavily involved. Our group, the ones who I grew up with in space, being taught by our space brothers, are highly connected, a very strong bond. As we operate, we act as one strong force. And then one of us was being hit, taken out. I saw it happening, his plane exploding and silence. I never forgot what went through us as we felt what was felt by each single one of us. I woke up crying my heart out, and at the same time questioning my absurd behavior. I mean, this was just a dream, right? Right? I tried to convince myself if I was getting delirious or whatever, but I knew better. There's this separation of my life here as a human and my life up there, but sometimes they come together. Later in life, I have been able to blend them more together through my own education, and I will speak more about that later. Thank you, Grace Claire, for your rather lengthy email, and we will continue with your account in the next episode of Secret Stories. And thank you for sharing them with us. It takes guts to share your account, and when you feel ready, I will share your story for you. This is Mary Cachapalia. May love and light be with you.